Steph Beckett, and this is rAVe TV. Is that not what I'm doing right now?
What does rAVe do?
rAVe. rAVe is a full-service creative agency that provides AV companies with creative services, marketing, and public relations support.
What don't we do?
We do it all.
We have Pubs, which is our publications, Now, which is our live events, Create, which is our creative services, Consult, which is helping brands amplify their message, Speak, which is the live speaking and keynotes that we do, Storytelling, which is our PR and copywriting services, and then we have Launch, which is our live events.
I work under the Create talent.
You have graphic design, you have day-to-day social management. There's so many different aspects.
It is so limitless.
rAVe Create is the worst talent.
If someone said that rAVe Create was the worst talent, they would be lying.
And Speak is the best talent, and I've never lied. Like whatever president that was that chopped the cherry tree and felt really bad and didn't. Is it Abe Lincoln? I'm Abe Lincoln of this office. My talent is rAVe Speak. We will be a personality or a host for different events within the industry.
One talent I fall under at rAVe is rAVe Now. People know me as the person that's gonna come shoot their videos.
My talent at the rAVe agency is storytelling. We help our clients break through the clutter and the noise in our industry.
My favorite part about my job is that every day is not the same. I love the people of rAVe.
You know, we have great people. We have a great team that really cares about what we're doing.
We have a lot of talented people.
I'm able to come in to basically any meeting and be like, hey, okay, I've got a really weird idea. Everybody just keep your comments until the end.
We go beyond just what we've done so far. We're always doing something more.
All right, with the rAVe animated logo. Exciting. All right, hello, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I am super excited. Welcome to the rAVe Esports Show with me, Bubba Gaeddert, your host. I am pumped. We are live on multiple platforms today. I heard that it was promoted. We only had 9, but now one of our amazing guests said that's more than 9. So yeah, we're on multiple Twitters, multiple YouTubes, multiple LinkedIns, Kick, Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, and TikTok. Hey, Kyle Party 64 in the Twitch chat. Thanks for being here, man. Stick around. We got some fun today. I definitely will check out your workout stream later for sure. Hey, this is going to be a fun day. If you haven't been around the past few times we've done shows, which we did a sneak peek a few weeks ago, and then 2 weeks ago, we had our first episode, and it was live streamed on multiple platforms, and we got to talk about rAVe Pubs and rAVe Agency, and then we also got to talk about the world of video games and esports through the Video Games and Esports Foundation, the foundation I get to run, which is really our charity of choice to support students in low-income areas, disenfranchised students. It's fun because I got to go speak at a really cool organization today called Shamrock this morning. Shamrock Trading Corporation, and Shamrock Trading Corporation it's kind of a big deal. I guess they do a lot of trading. I don't know, but they have companies like Ryan Transportation, and it was cool. I got to talk to them about the innovation of gaming and how things like the American Truck Simulator is a fun game that people play, and they play it in their houses, but also they have billboards on the roadways when you're driving, and they're advertising for people to come and drive real trucks. So you might see a lot of advertising in games and other ways with different products, but I thought it was really cool job advertising for careers in a game that they're doing a simulation of. And I had fun. I know we got some millennials and Gen Xers on the show here today, but it was fun talking about how, you remember Flight Simulator back in 1995 when we got that CD with Windows or whatever, and the Encardia encyclopedia. Like, those were fun times. Like, Flight Simulator was a great time. So simulators are still going on. The simulators, just like in power washing, the power washing simulator is very, very soothing. But a really big thanks, first of all and foremost, to rAVe Pubs and rAVe Agency, Gary K, Carrie Lartz. Thank you guys so much for investing in the Video Games and Esports Foundation and in the show. And a huge shout out to Neutrik Group for what they're doing for us with a sponsorship, but an amazing shout out because today we're going to have some amazing guests in about a few minutes, in about 10 minutes or so or less, from Extron, one of our amazing sponsors. We get to learn more about these people who work for Extron. One I've known for quite some time. We've worked in esports together, and the other one I'm going to get to learn as much as I know about him now as you guys know. We're all going to learn together. So I wanted to share quickly about the Video Games and Esports Foundation, the charity of choice. You can actually put !VEF in the chat. You can type !VEF in the chat. I'm going to try it. You can actually put that in the chat, and there is a link that pops up, and it's specific to the rAVe Esports Show, and it is a fundraiser where you can actually donate directly to that link, and it goes towards a goal for this show. Now, it's super helpful, as I said, because the Video Games and Esports Foundation is a charity we work with Title I students in low-income areas, and I love being able to be open to having people ask questions about esports and gaming. And that's why we spent a lot of time creating this very fun data sheet and research sheet that we showed last 2 weeks ago on the show, and just covered as much esport and gaming as we could. But feel free in the chat. I do want to throw out in the chat, hello over on LinkedIn, everybody on Twitch and Twitter. Thank you guys so much for being here on all the rAVe channels. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Drop any questions in the chat that you might have. But we also just want to say, feel free to donate, because we've got some amazing opportunities for students to help support them, and we couldn't do it without the support of our donors. But the Video Games and Esports Foundation is our charity of choice. Feel free to click that link in the chat. If you don't see it, we'll retype it in all the chat platforms right here, and I'll put that in our link so people can share and spread the message. Okay, we're gonna dive into the show a little early because I'm kind of excited, because I've got some amazing people coming in, and they're with Extron. So if you guys don't know Extron, we're going to show you an ad here shortly after we get into talking with them. But I'm going to introduce our amazing guests that we have today. We have two amazing guests from Extron. We have Kevin Diltz and Andrew Evans. How are you guys today?
Good to see you. Doing great.
Doing great, Bubba. Thanks for having us on today.
Man, I am excited to get to hear more about Extron, but I'm also excited to catch up with Kevin, because we've hung out a little bit, and also to get to know you, Andrew. So I'm gonna start with you, Andrew. What is your favorite video game of all time? On the spot.
Ooh, on the spot, all time. I gotta go kind of old school. I cut my teeth on Duke Nukem.
Oh yes. Duke Nukem. Oh, what was it about Duke Nukem that got you?
Well, I was an engineering student at the time at University of South Carolina, and the computer labs would kind of flip over at the end of the day, and next thing you know, you're finding Duke Nukem and all kinds of other games running on the computer lab, and so I got kind of sucked in at an early age, and then from there got a PlayStation before it was called the PS1.
Right.
And so I had to buy Duke Nukem 3D as my first game on that. And, yeah.
Okay. I like that you said that before PlayStation 1 was called PlayStation 1. We didn't refer to it that way. That's very good. I like that. All right, Kevin, let's hear your most favorite video game of all time.
My most favorite video game seems to change every couple of years. I grinded Valorant for a couple of years, and that was my favorite for a long time. But man, I've been playing a lot of Fortnite lately, and now that Fortnite OG is out, super cool. My son, who just told me forever, Dad, Fortnite is boring, it's lame. Now he's back into it, so it's cool to see the video game nostalgia now coming in these kids seeing it, going back to the original season. So super cool. We play together, and I probably play too much Fortnite at this point. So
I'm with you. I play a little too much Fortnite as well, and the OG Fortnite definitely is getting me. I didn't really join the early season, but I watched enough of it at that time on streams. And I love that you play. I love that you mentioned you play with your kiddo. I was talking about windshield time earlier today, and how windshield time is great for you to be able to maybe sit with your kid in the car and drive and talk about life's hard choices and life's hard questions. But playing video games is super awesome when you're just sitting with your kid with a controller, and you can say, "Hey, what's going on with your life, bud?" And you can talk about that, because it's, dads, we don't like face-to-face conversation, or let's just say men, we're not great at face-to-face conversations. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Kevin. That's awesome. Okay, all right. So you had favorite. We had Duke Nukem. We got changing. You said you cranked Valorant. Is that what you said?
Oh yeah, I played a lot of Valorant for sure.
It is right now the hottest game in collegiate esports. Valorant is. It is just an amazing top game. If you guys are in the chat and you've got a favorite game, please drop it in the chat, and I'm happy to read those off. If you got your favorite game in the chat, please drop that in there. It can be anything. It can be Frogger, it can be Pong, whatever. It doesn't matter, or Candy Crush. Andrew, let's go back with, what was your first video game you ever played?
Oh, gonna have me show my age here. So first video game was Tanks on the Atari.
Okay.
Yeah.
That does show your age.
I know, right? You're kind of calling me out here, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm all right with that.
Tanks. Describe Tanks for all those of us who don't remember Tanks on Atari.
So, yeah, I mean, it's
Combat.
Like
I believe it was called Combat.
Combat. Okay, yeah. So it was like a step above Pong, barely. And so you got your one joystick with the one button, and you've got kind of like the mazes around, and your two tanks. Having to figure out like how do you angle the gun to shoot the other tank around the walls and stuff. That was, yeah.
Let's see. I think I got a shot here. Let's see this right
here. That's the one.
That's it.
I do remember this on Atari, which is funny because this is now a pretty popular game. Like my kids played this on the Nintendo Wii as one of the like box of games. Yeah, I do remember this game definitely. That's funny.
Yeah.
Combat.
What's old is new again, right?
There's definitely a mobile version of this. I can guarantee you.
For sure.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Let's see, Kevin. First video game you ever played?
I'm right here on Combat 2, and we had a 2600 at my house, 2600 at my grandparents' house, and every time I'd go to my grandparents' house for the weekend, my grandma would bring me out 2 new cartridges that I'd get to play on, and I was like, this is awesome. This is super cool. And one day I was in my grandpa's office, and I was happened to look in his closet, and there was a cardboard box, and I pulled it down. It was full of Atari 2600 carts, and I was like, oh my God, jackpot. And so I brought them all out. They're like, okay, cat's out of the bag. And it was like, go time. So yeah, that was my youth, was playing a bunch of those old Atari games for sure.
Wait, was that Barney Fife in the commercial just there? Did I just see? Hold on. I don't know if that's Barney. It's so old you can't even tell.
It's at least a sibling. I mean, man, that's
yeah, look like him. It's hard to tell. This is so jankety. These are old commercials. Is that almost looks like the comedian? It's so bad resolution. Let's see if there's a newer version. Oh my gosh, remember these commercials? Holy cow.
Oh,
wow. So it's funny, I was in London last month, and I got to go speak at the College of Esports, and I gave a whole presentation on the history of video games. And we started surprisingly back in the Ming Dynasty, because that's where games started, right? And then it went to the 1930s to pinball to 1940s and 50s with war game type computers and the oscilloscope and tennis for two, which became Pong. So the Atari definitely in the 60s and 70s is fun to really reminisce on. Did you guys, what other Atari games did you play? Oh, there's what's that game with the little guy with the nose? Gosh, what is that? Cubert. Golly, that's fun. Oh wow. Here we go.
Yeah, so we're arcade guys too. So back in the 80s, that was huge. Going to the video game arcade at the mall. Tilt, Aladdin's Castle. Boy, it was a lot of quarters spent in those days.
Oh my gosh, those games were so much fun. Yeah, I did a lot of Mortal Kombat at the arcade.
Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter.
That game you just showed there, Pitfall. Activision had a thing where if you reached a certain score, you could take a picture of your TV screen, mail it off to Activision, and they would send you back a letter and a patch that said like Activision Pitfall Adventurer Club or something like that. And there's a video game museum here in Frisco, which is super cool if you haven't checked it out. And they have all of those old Activision patches that you could win. So I saw those and I was like, okay, that's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, that's some good throwback. There's Cubert again. I remember this. I saw the movie Tetris earlier this year. I really enjoyed that. I also like that actor. It was really good story. I'm sure there's a bit of artistic license, but it got me deep into this last 2 years just studying the history of video games, and I really loved the history of the game E.T., which is going down in history as one of the worst games ever made, and that they took almost every game cartridge they could find of E.T. and buried them because it was that
White Sands, New Mexico.
That's right. I love that story because it definitely shows. It definitely shows to the fact of game design and how if you make a game where it's too hard, it's really flow theory. If you guys know flow theory, like challenge versus skill, right? Challenge versus skill makes it difficult if it's too challenging and it requires a lot of skill, or you don't have the amount of skill but it's not challenging, it's boring. Now I love the history in that. Now when we talk about video games, talk about esports, I want to jump into a little bit about you guys and your backgrounds. Andrew, if you'll share with me, like, tell me about your role now, and tell me how you got to where you are.
Sure. So, I really kind of came to the AV industry, the audio video industry, on the residential side originally, and I was doing the usual home theaters, distributed audio type stuff. And around 2001, made the jump over to commercial audio and video, and was doing design work for a pretty large integrator at the time. And from there, Extron was always a company that I was interested in, was using their products a lot, always had a lot of respect for them. And so around 2006, I got the opportunity to join Extron as a system design engineer. And so I took over an area of the country, and I was responsible for meeting with our customers and helping them come up with Extron solutions to solve whatever audio and video distribution challenges they might have. Did that for about 5 years in the sales department before moving over to product marketing, where I am now. And so it's been a really fun time, and because technology is always changing, it's always been something fresh and something new coming down the line, which has kept my interest in it, certainly.
Love that. Okay, Kevin, I know a little bit of your history, but I'd love for the audience to know and how you got to Extron today and where you've been and where esports came up and how that started with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So back in 2010, I was working for Dell, worked there for about 12 years, and a recruiter in the AV industry reached out to me about an opportunity at another manufacturer. I didn't know the first thing about AV or control systems or video distribution, but they were hiring a team to focus on the higher education vertical market. And I said, hey, this looks interesting. I'm going to go for it. So worked at that company in the higher education space for about 10 years. And so that was 2010 to 2020. And during that time, calling on a lot of colleges and visiting them, I was seeing this phenomenon of esports programs starting right around the middle of, 2010s. And so that got me interested in this. Fast forward to 2020 when COVID hit, that had a pretty big impact on the AV industry. And I was part of a layoff, unfortunately, but that gave me an opportunity to really figure out, where I wanted to go next. And esports is something that I've always been interested in as a gamer, but also seeing this, growth in the collegiate space. So I, started looking around and enrolled in a continuing education program at SMU, an esports business management program, which was
Danny?
super cool. Yeah, Danny Martin and John Davidson and David Shen and Mike Aguilar, who was great. Pardon me. And then found an opportunity to go to work at Generation Esports at the high school esports league, which is where we met. So that was back in May of 2021. Transitioned from there into another competitive league, which was Play Versus, for a little over a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then this opportunity, came along at Extron, which was everything that I kind of was hoping that would happen, is a career in esports within pro AV. And I was like, heck yeah, I'm jumping on this one for sure. So it's been great so far. Really awesome.
Well, I love that story. I honestly I didn't remember that you worked for Dell, and I love that you have the education. And it makes sense why you got scooped up by all these different orgs, and now you're this esports guy for Extron. Is it a team of one, or are you, Andrew, you a part of the esports side, or are you just the part of the product, or how's that work for you guys?
Sure. So for us, it is definitely more than just a team of one. I think Kevin would agree with that. And so we've got a group of people back in the office and at Extron that are really supporting the esports side of things. The growth and the opportunity there is really exciting. Some of the work that I did prior to working on esports was actually in the government and military simulation side of things.
Ooh.
And you hate to call that esports, but it's kind of related, right? You've got a flight simulator. It's just a little different way of scoring the results of the pilot. And so esports was kind of a fun and exciting area to kind of take a sideways shift towards.
So when I hear, what I'm hearing is Extron, there's dedicated people, or maybe semi-dedicated, or support staff helping out. Yeah, break down that real quick. I know we'll jump into a little more later and what you guys do, but just give me kind of a 1,000-foot level, the people that are supporting esports, whether it be education or anything else, from Extron.
Sure. So we have a team that's dedicated to the education market, and esports really is a portion of that education market, right? The colleges, the universities, even K through 12. And so that whole team is in support of esports, as well as things like lecture capture and just instructional technology, and kind of merging those two things together. So we've got, on Kevin's side, he's got the sales, the business development side. And then we also have, a team of people in the office supporting the people that are out there in the field. And then from a company perspective, we're looking for ways to innovate and to bring products and solutions tailored to the esports and education markets.
Well, I love this because I work with a lot of AV, audiovisual, tech, all sorts of companies, and I can only think of one who probably has a similar amount of staff devoted. And so that's sad because there's not enough, but I also know that there's an organization like yours that's supporting this industry through what you guys are trying to accomplish to help people. And so I love that because it's necessary and it's needed. And before we jump into more about Extron and esports, I'm actually going to roll an Extron ad, and we're going to learn more about you guys. So here we go. All right. So we're going to jump into really Extron, and we're going to understand a little bit more in depth about what you guys are trying to accomplish. Now that we talked about what you guys do to favorite video games, obviously, and we've talked about a little bit of your career and how Extron works within the gaming, education, esports space. Kevin, tell me more about Extron and what you guys are trying to do in the esports space when it comes to your role.
Yeah, so this is something before I joined here in May that our team, as Andrew mentioned, was working on for a long time. So not only do we have the education team, we also have literally hundreds of engineers behind the scenes. We're an engineering company, so I work a lot with system design engineers to help design everything from esports labs to competition and practice spaces, even larger arenas. And that's both in collegiate and K through 12. And really, I'm seeing some interesting phenomenon. So, there's a lot of colleges and universities and districts and schools that are just now getting into esports. And so they're making big investments in their facilities. They're, of course, buying the PCs, the furniture, the consoles, the chairs, but also audiovisual technology. But what we're seeing a lot of also is in the collegiate space, these schools who have been competing from, kind of 2015 onward, there's hundreds and hundreds of colleges that started out with a computer lab, and that's really all they needed to get started. But now they're at a point where, they're outgrowing their space. They're moving into larger spaces on campus, and now they're integrating audiovisual technology. So, what we're seeing is that a lot of, as you know, Bubba, the scholastic, the K-12 space is absolutely huge. And for those in the AV industry that don't know this, back in 2018, the National Federation of State High School Association, they're kind of the governing body for athletics nationally. They formally sanctioned esports. And then you have about 23 to 25 state associations, state athletic and activities associations who have sponsored it. So like, Colorado and Shasta and Arkansas and the AAA and Georgia and Virginia, there's a whole bunch of different ones. And so what we're seeing is so much participation at the high school space that these students are, going off, they're touring colleges, and they want to attend a school where they can be on the esports program. So we're finding that, when they go to a school that has a computer lab, that's nice. But if they go to another college that has a really great audiovisual system that helps with, my player development, there's also a great, campus community around gaming and esports. Spectator space is absolutely huge, and the audio video that goes into all of that, that's another plus, right? That gives them one more reason to maybe choose that college as opposed to one that hasn't built that out yet. So we're seeing a lot of that kind of demand there. What's happening in K through 12 is we're seeing a lot of districts who are building, like a district esports arena for schools to compete in. But it's also big at the individual school sites. We're working on a project now with a district who's building esports labs in 5 of their high schools, which will have, all the things that are required, plus a really awesome Extron AV system. So video displays within the room, the ability for the coach to route any of the gaming PCs to any of the displays. But what's super cool is that they're sending a feed of that into an auditorium where parents can come in. They can watch their kids compete. And some interesting products kind of come into play where you can have a multi-window processor where, imagine you're looking at a Rocket League match, for example, you can see all 3 players plus a shoutcaster camera right there. So, these kids, they want their parents to be there. They want them to be cheering them on. They want them to be watching them, right? Football players. My daughter's a cheerleader, and I sit in the front row and embarrass the heck out of her, right? But they want us there. And so it's important to them. A lot of these kids, esports is their first and only after-school activity. And so the other thing that's interesting is that a lot of these kids have never been involved in team sports before. So they're learning, all of those important skills like teamwork and strategy and communication and collaboration, right? So the more that their parents and friends can support them and cheer them on, definitely a big win for sure. And our technology really helps bring that spectator experience and provide that excitement, right? So it's awesome to see what's happening out there.
Yeah, I love that, Andrew. I want to ask you, but Kevin, I remember our fun conversations with the Colorado NFHS and the school districts and stuff. Those were some good times trying to help them along, and some other different orgs we worked there with. Man, that was it's good. It's good to see the sanctioning. And I remember going to Oklahoma, where I grew up, and just a few miles from my house, and presented to them back in 2018 about all this, and they said, "Well, what video game do we sanction?" He's looking at it like, "What sport?" I'm like, "Well, you don't just sanction, the mile and the shot put. You sanction track and field, right?" So it was a fun conversation to kind of help them understand, because they all have their their qualms about different video games. And so I really love that you placed all that. And Andrew, I want to ask you, kind of as the director of product marketing, what are all the nuts and bolts? I mean, are you guys working from studs out, or what when we're talking about eSport lab, do you subcontract things? How does this work when it comes to helping a school with an esports lab?
Sure. So Extron, like Kevin said, is really an engineering driven company. And so we're looking at it from basically what comes out of that gaming console or that PC, and where do we take that audio, that video signal, and how do we control that environment that is the lab, that is the arena? How do we need to preserve the pristine video quality, the frame rate, the bit depth of the colors, so that the players aren't impacted, but still being able to send that video and audio out to that arena, to those image processors, that type of thing. And so where Extron comes in, people like Kevin and other people on the team with Kevin, they're having conversations about, what's your space, what's your goal, and we're giving them that input on how technology can help them achieve their instructional and their esports goals within that envelope itself.
Okay, now talk me through, Andrew. Like what does this equipment look like that you guys are providing, or you're placing, or you're giving to these schools? What is something beneficial, or the most common thing you would see that a school would need from Extron?
Sure. So I'd say probably one of the most popular devices or categories that we've seen in labs, as well as in some of the larger spaces, is our XTP series of matrix switchers. Okay. And so this is it's a cornerstone really to the whole esports application. And it's what takes the different player PCs in and then distributes them out across to the different displays, to the image processors, that type of thing. And the reason that the XTP platform is typically selected is our 50 gigabit per second backplane. And not to dive too far deep into speeds and feeds, but basically think about the video output from your gaming computer.
Okay.
Some of the things that you're probably most interested in: frame rate, right?
Okay.
Resolution, color bit depth, those types of things. Mm-hmm. When you start adding those elements together, it tells you what the video bit rate or data rate is. And what we want to do is to be able to bring that into the XTP system and distribute that out without impacting, compressing, reducing down that bit rate, so that you have uncompressed video routed everywhere that you need it to go. And that 50 gigabit per second backplane is what allows us to do 4K 60, 1080p 120, those types of things, and even up to 8K resolutions. Wow. And so it's a way that you can have a device within these lab spaces, within these arena spaces, that functions standalone from your actual player PCs, so that you don't have that overhead of a a different solution. I know that you've probably had some experience with things like OBS or something like that running in the background right while you're playing a game. All right, next thing you know, you've got some latency. You're starting to drop frames. You know, maybe you've got some artifacts that are happening just from the compression going on. By offloading all of that work and that video distribution into a system like XTP, you eliminate dropped frames. You eliminate the compression of the bit depth for color. You eliminate the compression of the actual resolution of your video. And so what the audience experiences is just what the player is experiencing as well. There's no degradation in it at all. And because we're able to send these signals various places, it means that the coach, the shoutcasters, they can get their own feeds. They can select what they want to see, and the players can still do their thing.
And you I hear what I hear you saying is the term I've only heard is an encoder. Is that a similar? Is that the right terminology for me, or am I wrong?
You're not wrong. So there's kind of it's like saying, is an apple a fruit? Is a banana a fruit? They both are, but you might want one versus the other, right? So an encoder is going to take that video in and it's going to compress it. It's going to do something to get your video bit rate down. Like the streams that we're sending out today, they're going through various encoders to get our 4K webcams down to, I don't know, 360p or something if you're watching this on a Nokia phone or something. Right?
Well, many people are,
but
actually.
Yeah, I'm sure the whole audience is, right? Yeah. But if we were to send that same video to a 20-foot tall direct view LED wall in an arena, it would look horrible, right? We want to have every single pixel that's on the player PC represented on that wall. And so in XTP, we have transmitters and receivers instead of encoders and decoders. And the difference is that the encoders and decoders, they're having to compress that signal down to a smaller bit rate and then expand it back up. With a transmitter and receiver, we're passing every single bit of information down the line.
Well, I look at this stuff here on the screen and I think about the crow's nest at church and the big stacks and racks of stuff that I've worked on, or I just hit the buttons on the panels to change scenes. I don't know what's going on. So this looks like that. And I'm glad there's people like you guys to help explain that to schools. And I'm sure the conversations are helpful when, Kevin, you're going to schools and they have probably video clubs or something like that, or a kind of a media program, or more than likely, a lot of these systems could probably be in place of sports broadcasting, I would guess. Is there a nice transition to help with that when you're talking like to an AD or somebody or a media at a school and they're like, we have this stuff, or we can use this stuff as well? What's the language you use there?
Yeah, it's really helping them understand what the technology is, not getting into those speeds and feeds and the card frames and all that kind of thing, the technical speak, but here's what it can actually do for your students, for your players, for your spectators. And this may sound crazy, but I help them, think about it when you say, have you ever been to a Top Golf? Have you ever been to a Dave & Buster's? And you see all those TVs everywhere. And, this technology is what makes that happen. Now, let's think about that in esports, right? So how can we take every bit of your gamer's output and then bring that into the matrix switcher, into the AV system, uncompressed, that ultra high quality video, and where do we want to send that out to, whether it's in the space itself, what is in the arena, or every program is a little bit different, right? And so some have kind of their varsity room, but they'll have a competition stage with a screen, and some may have a broader sort of a community where they have a casual gaming space, and we can send our matches out there for our fans to watch, right? Cheer our teams on, right? We talked about kind of that overflow space. What we're seeing also in K-12 is dual purpose classrooms, right? So, we talk a lot about ways for esports programs to get grant funding for their gaming PCs. And then those can support CTE classes during the day, like graphic design or cybersecurity and multimedia arts, photography, video editing, all that great stuff. And then after school, that space becomes an esports lab, right, or arena. But what an audiovisual system can now do is give that space the ability for some really interesting collaborative teaching and learning and instruction, to where, imagine the professor or the instructor or the teacher, they want to teach from their laptop, they connect, they can send their content out to the screens around the room so all of the students can see. But then you can say, all right, we're going to be working in team-based projects, and group 1, students 1, 2, and 3. Now it's time for you to present on your group project. So I can put student 1 content here, student 2 here, student 3 there, collaborate, present. Great job. Okay, on to group 2. Now student 4, 5, and 6, right? So there's a lot of push now. There's actually an interesting article from back in 2023 in May of this year by the NFHS that talks about the reincarnation of the computer lab. They kind of went away, especially with COVID. Everybody went one-to-one Chromebook, but they're coming back. And we can do a lot to transform those computer labs into doing some really cool stuff.
Well, I love this. It's definitely where we live in. And it's funny. So on Twitch, I've got a question for you guys, and I don't know who wants to take it. It's more of a, it's very in depth here. He asked, a rugged nerd buddy of mine. He asked, are there any issues to overcome with interference or interception? So I think he's speaking your language, because all I think is about when I referee flag football. So interference or interception, are these sent wired only? If wireless, is interception an issue or encryption prevention? So maybe let's talk about wired versus wireless and encryption or interception. Any of those words make sense?
I'd say they all make sense, and I'll let Kevin take this one.
Oh, nice.
I'm
about to say,
no,
wait a second.
No. This one's definitely mine.
Okay.
So when it comes to doing the distribution for these systems, we talked a little bit earlier about compression and how we are trying to get the bit rates down. In order for it to be wireless, you have to really choke down those bit rates in order to take advantage of a wireless infrastructure. So what we normally would suggest is a wired infrastructure. XTP uses a twisted pair cable, kind of like a Cat5, Cat6 kind of a cable. And it's something called circuit switched. So it goes transmitter to the matrix to the receiver. And there's no eavesdropping that occurs in that. And because of the way that the signal is processed for transmission over that twisted pair cable, and the cable construction itself, it is fairly immune to EMI and RFI type of interferences. If you had really long distances that you wanted to overcome, or if you're in a place where you had really noisy EMI and RFI, or where you've got different ground planes between your player PCs and your video wall display, you might want to look at the fiber optic interfaces that we offer. And that's going to be an even more secure way of transmitting that audio and video signal and taking care of any kind of ground plane differentials as well as interference that might be in the space.
Andrew, can you talk a little bit quickly about JITC and what that means and the security that provides?
Sure. So I think in the first segment, I had mentioned that I'd done some work in the government side of things. And so a lot of our products are used by government entities worldwide. And as Kevin mentioned, there's a certification called JITC, Joint Interoperability Test Command, and it's a accreditation that occurs for products to make sure that the way that they're handling signals is one that does not allow for spurious emissions. It makes sure that certain criteria are met in order to prevent that eavesdropping or that hacking of the signal. So if you are doing some video distribution, you don't want people kind of spying in on what it is that you're sending across those lines. And so XTP, our fiber systems, our DTP systems, our video wall processors, all of these products have gone through that Department of Defense accreditation program and have those certificates available. And so for esports, you probably don't need the JITC. That's probably not a checkbox that the purchasing agent's looking to sign off on at the college level, but it does give you that assurance that these products are secure and that they have gone through and they've addressed both the integrity of the signal itself, but also the cybersecurity aspect of it. Some of these products do end up touching the district network. And so the district IT people start asking questions about like, well, how secure is it if it's going to be on my network? How do I manage patches? That type of thing. And so by having these accreditations in place already, it really makes them more comfortable with these products being on their networks at the district level.
Well, it's good. Glad you said that. Obviously, my friend Rugged Nerd, I think he works in government type tech, because part of his next question was transmitting at full resolution, DoD, government agencies, military intel feeds. So I said, is that answer question? And pretty good. So I'm gonna go with that because it's you mentioned the Matrix, so I thought about Neo, and we were talking about football interceptions. I'm not a complete dummy, but I don't know all those terms, and so I'm glad you explained it very well. And I do want to jump in here. We're gonna do a quick station identification and ad for our other sponsor, Neutrik, and then I'm gonna jump in, Kevin, with you to this really cool guide that you guys have, the Esports System Design Guide. So I'm gonna jump into that here right when we get back from this ad from Neutrik.
The Neutrik Group has a variety of connectors that can be helpful in your setup. Neutrik and rAVe offer XLRs for microphones, different types of plugs and jacks for your headphones, as well as Ethernet connectors for uninterrupted connectivity. Neutrik makes ruggedized versions of HDMI, USB, BNC, and fiber connectors to ensure the best possible signal connection is made every time. We're excited to be a part of this ever-expanding global industry, and we look forward to working with you and assisting you with your gaming projects. If you'd like to learn more about the Neutrik Group and esports, please click on the shared link below in the description. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, be well and stay connected.
Okay, so I always like that guy. You couldn't probably hear that guy's voice, but he's got a very fun voice as an appreciative person of radio. Andrew, thank you again for the explanation on those very big topics because they are definitely needed. And I think the audience out there, they want to hear about the ins and outs. And speaking of ins and outs, Kevin, I've got this Esports Systems Design Guide. Walk me through this. I'm on page 1. I don't know how many pages there are.
Got one right here in front of me as well. This is something that we put together, like you said, as a guide for folks and customers to understand different types of spaces, right? Whether it's a practice competition space or a larger arena. We're actually working on the next iteration of this, which is going to be super cool, which is even going to add more different designs, but it really provides a helpful, it's kind of a signal flow diagram to help customers understand, here's my gaming PCs, here's my coaches or instructor station, here's where I have my video pathways from DisplayPort to my local monitor, HDMI into the Matrix switcher. I have my audio DSP for signal processing and kind of bringing the microphones into that. You also have your shoutcaster station. Some programs may have a separate observer PC, and then bringing that into their broadcast environment, whether that is one of our appliances that both stream and record. Recording, by the way, is really important for coaches and directors to do live reviews or video on demand. It's kind of like film review after football. So they sit down with their teams, they review matches and say, hey, we did great here, or maybe we could have set up differently here, or here's where we might have made a mistake. And we have annotation products as well, so that's something else they can also utilize.
What's an annotation product?
Yeah, so you can just annotate just like you see, on football, right? They're drawing lines and circling players and things like that, right? So a lot of coaches will use those types of things as well. So again, the design guide, illustrates a couple of case studies. The one you're showing right there is a university called Point Park, and I like to show this to folks a lot because it helps them understand how the technology is being used, the benefit that it provides to the coach, to the players, and also, if there is that overflow or spectator area, what it could do for them.
Is this for the is this the main panel? This screen right here? Can you talk me through what that is? Because I want one.
So, kind of what everybody has, whether it's in a classroom or a conference room, is a control user interface. And so that is a touch panel. They come in a variety of different sizes. The way that particular one is laid out is you can see kind of at the middle, there's 16 different buttons, one for each of the 16 gaming PCs in that room. Okay. Wow. Along the top, those are your displays. And so there's a button that says left display. So that's the display on the left wall. You have your main display on the front wall, your right display, which you can see right there. What's also cool about this particular design is that there is a coach display. So you'll see there's two monitors on the coach's desk. One is for their PC that you'll see sitting right next to it. The other, they're able to route any of those PCs to that other secondary monitor. So they can sit there. They don't always have to be walking around and looking over the player's shoulders and, having to turn their head and body to see everything. So again, it really gives them the opportunity to see them, real time as they're competing. So really, really effective way for the coach to just send any of those PCs to any of those screens and, have that capability.
Can you change these buttons, ask in the chat, or if I rug a nerd, can you change these buttons to match the physical floor plan of where the computers are?
Of course, yeah. So you'll see that space has 2 rows. And so if that made more sense for them, we get feedback and input from the customers about how they want these designed. These are, you get them out of the box, they're blank. You try to plug it in, there's literally nothing on it. So these are all custom programmed with the GUI, the graphical user interface that you want to have on that.
That's amazing.
So yeah, 100%.
Wow. Okay, so then you talk a little about the XTP systems you mentioned, and okay, the video walls. So I love that. And here's, I guess, that's control system you were mentioning. Okay, great. Love all the product options. Love the graphics.
So the control system I'll add is it does more than just that controlling of the switching and routing. So imagine that coach walks in, sits down at his desk, presses the power on button, that turns on all those displays in the room. You can control lighting within the space, so you can dim lighting and go with your color, whatever color that you want in there. You can also adjust your audio volume up and down. There's also, with our streaming media processor, our recording and streaming appliance, you can press a single button on that touch panel and it will stream instantly out to Twitch, YouTube Live, Facebook, kind of like what we're doing today, and also record simultaneously. Wow. And so with that recording, it can go right to a thumb drive or onboard storage, or even send that into their content management system like Panopto or Kaltura. And again, can't stress enough the importance of having that ability to go back and watch that replay.
This guide might wind up on our VEF page, Kevin. No one puts this kind of diagram work into their esports guides. that I see a lot of guides. So this is super, super helpful, I think, for the nerdy of us, for this. I really appreciate that.
And Bubba, let me point out that
yeah, please.
When we work with these schools,
Mm-hmm.
we do these same kind of designs and drawings for them. That's one of our
Okay.
services. And so
Wow.
we're meeting with different colleges and different schools, and we understand, again, what's your vision? What's your goal? What do you want your program to be, right? And so we'll put together a system diagram just like the one in this and provide that for them. That's one of the services that we provide. We provide the bill of materials. That way they have, they understand exactly what that system would look like in their space.
So there's sorry, Bubba.
Mm-hmm.
That guide, if you go to extron.com/esports, there's a link to that guide there, but there's also to Kevin's point, there's also a place where you can ask for getting connected with some of those people inside of Extron to help with that design work. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop for information as well as how to get a hold of us.
I love that. Okay, version 2.0. VEF wants to be a part of this. We want to be a part of this, and we have our fun data, big deck that has all the data and all the information about esports and everything. We want to help, disseminate information as much as possible. So let's keep talking, because we love getting information in front of people, and you guys have a great guide. Honestly, I do see a lot of guides, and I try to help out where I can, but you've got a great guide. So thank you for that. And
thank you for your website. I use that all the time, Bubba. Those facts and figures, I
I hope you do. That's what it's there for. It's a free resource, free tool. Well, as we wrap up here, we've got just a few minutes left. Any last parting words from you guys about what you want the audience to know about Extron?
Sure. So I know that that esports and AV don't always collide as far as the different people and what they're interested in. So thanks for the opportunity to be here today to try to bring some of these two different groups together, and just want to make sure that that people walk away or step away from the show today knowing that we do have a dedicated team for esports at Extron. And one of the things that we love to do is just to connect with people and to really understand what they want to achieve and help them find the right technology to do that.
Go ahead, Kev. Go ahead, Kevin.
And what will say also is that just our company history, we've been here, this is our 40-year anniversary, and we have literally a portfolio of 5,000 products. So as I'm talking with schools, a lot of them already have our technology installed, right? And so their AV folks, they're familiar with us, and we're just adding one more type of a solution outside of their typical classroom AV or speakers or what that might look like. Now we can provide that same kind of technology in a different way that solves a different problem, but in their esports environment.
Truly an honor today, guys. Thank you so much for coming and chatting about what Extron has. Get to know your favorite video games, as well as seeing and hearing some extra nerdy stuff that I appreciate. I know some people in the chat definitely do appreciate that. So thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. This has been great. Thank you again for sponsoring. And hey, Extron and the VEF, let's get together. Let's help some kids. I mean, I'm happy to find a way,
Thank you, Bubba. This is awesome.
Sounds great.
You guys can stick around the control room. I'll meet you on stream, and I'm going to close down the show, and hopefully we can play some Fortnite together. Andrew, do you play any Fortnite? Will you play Fortnite?
I'm kind of in like Roblox mode right now with my kids. Yeah. They're young. I haven't unleashed.
Zero build though. Gotta be zero build. I can't.
Zero build. Same here. Same. We'll get together on that, Kevin. Andrew, for sure. I love Roblox. I built the deck, Kevin. Our big slideshow from the VEF. I turned the first 2 or 3 sections into a Roblox game where you can actually choose and see if you got the right answer. Like, how do you spell esports? Is it written funny? Like, I turned into a Roblox game. I'll send it to you, Andrew, because it's something I want to continue, and maybe even make a Fortnite competitive game, or in UEFN, which is a lot of work, but Roblox is definitely there. Well,
Nice,
cool.
nice.
We'll get together. We'll play some video games. That's definitely gonna happen.
That sounds good, Bubba.
All right, guys. I'll send you back to the control room, and I'll talk to you later. All right. Thanks so much.
Sounds good. Take care.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here today. We had another great show. We are going to be having the rAVe Esports Show powered by rAVe Pubs, rAVe Agency. Thank you again, Gary K and Carrie Larch. Thank you guys so much for helping get this show rolling and get these amazing sponsors like Neutrik and definitely Extron. And with that, I definitely want to say a big shout out to Extron, and we'll see you guys every first and third Thursday of the month. We'll have we're going to have some people like Mike and Christy for the new curriculum that we kind of mentioned last week coming up in the next month, and also potentially Josh Kale with Esports Integration, who work with a lot of these people that are sponsors and partners. So thank you guys again so much for being here. Have an amazing day. Stay awesome.
The Neutrik Group has a variety of connectors that can be helpful in your setup. Neutrik and rAVe offer XLRs for microphones, different types of plugs and jacks for your headphones, as well as Ethernet connectors for uninterrupted connectivity. Neutrik makes ruggedized versions of HDMI, USB, BNC, and fiber connectors to ensure the best possible signal connection is made every time. We're excited to be a part of this ever-expanding global industry, and we look forward to working with you and assisting you with your gaming projects. If you'd like to learn more about the Neutrik Group and esports, please click on the shared link below in the description. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, be well and stay connected.